Alright guys, so today I'm going to show you a pretty cool website that I found. um, if you would like to practice some mixing some multi-tracks. So is this website here, this link. I found it just by searching through free multi-tracks, and I came across this 300 plus multi-tracks for mixing practice. And then here on the first link, Mike Senior's mixing secrets library. Now there's some different stuff, different libraries here as well. However, I found that the first one has the biggest range of genres and that you can choose from. So I downloaded this song. Let me just search for it. Death of a Romantic. This is a metal song, and then you can also see each of the multi-tracks that you download for your mixing practices. You can support the bands. You are not, however, allowed to use this for commercial use, for obvious reasons. But yeah, there's like this Facebook page of the band and their own website. So yeah, when you're done downloading it, you can put it into any DAW and start mixing. So I downloaded Pro Tools first, and I just wanted to check out Pro Tools because I've never used it before. I just wanted to see what you get with the free version. You do get quite a lot actually, but there are some limitations. You only have 16 audio tracks that you can utilize, or 16 sends, effects buses, and that's about it. The plugins are also, you only get an EQ, compressor, a de-esser, and like one reverb and a delay. So there's not that much that you get, but you do get the bare minimum, like EQ and compression, which really are the backbone to mixing a song in live or in the studio. There's a lot of other plugins that can spice up a mix a lot, but yeah, I decided to do a mix with the bare minimum of this song from Death of a Romantic. I'm not sure if you can hear this, but I'm just quickly gonna go through my mix and what I used. So first off, I compressed everything. The kick, for example, as I use slow attack times and quick release times, so that it still punches through the transients, but lets me bypass this. And then my basic EQ will always look kind of something like this. The kick usually punches at the low end at 50 to 55 hertz, and then you would like to take out some of this low mids to leave some space for the bass guitar and other stuff in the mix. There's usually you can always run it through a few EQs, because if you do, I like to boost the highs here a bit, so that you can, especially in metal, that you can hear the kick punch through the mix. But then there's always some parts here that doesn't sound too good, that you can just take out in another EQ with a narrow bell. Alright, moving on. Next I have the snare. The snare also has compressed pretty much with a slow attack time. My basic EQ for that. The snare usually punches here at 200 hertz, and depending on the snare, you would like to boost some of this highs here and take up some of this mids to high mids. Next we have the toms, also compressed, not that much though. My basic tom mix for tom 1 and tom 2, which would be the floor tom. It all depends on how it sounds, what kind of drums it is. And then yeah, okay, I'll talk about the effects buses in a moment. And then I have my two overheads, which is basically just running through a high pass filter, so you don't want any of the low end from the kick and from the snare coming through the overhead mics. So my bass runs through two compressors. So the first compressor I would usually play around with the attack time. Start with it usually full and turn it down until the bass becomes muffled and dull. Then you just release it a bit, and that would be a nice position for a bass to still get clarity on the notes, and it's not just over compressed. Let me see if I can play this. It's compressed quite a lot though. And then my second compressor just compresses it a tiny bit more, and then you really do have a solid bass or low end to your mix. There's my EQ. I like to boost some of this high mids here. It really brings out the let's call it clanginess of the bass. And it also just punches through the mix so you can hear the bass and not just feel the low end. Alright, moving on to the two guitars. I panned it hard left and hard right. There's two different guitars. Both of them are running through a small compressor. Not that much because it's already compressed. My two EQs. I usually do the EQs a little bit different for both guitars, depending on whatever I mix, but you would like to sound that have a little bit of a different sound. They are going to reverb buses, which also just brightens up the mix, or how can you say it? It just becomes more fatter, bigger. Then we have vocals. Now vocals always depends on what type of genre you're mixing. Generally, growling in a low end. Here's a nice region that brings that out a lot. And there's two vocals actually, two of the same vocal tracks that are kind of, let's see, these are the two vocal tracks. So the one is a bit of a more scream vibe, and the other one is a bit of a more talking vibe. The one with the less screaming, there's an effect bus that I use to kind of stereo shape the one vocal, so that not all of the vocals run through the center. So what I do is I just kind of delay the one side from the other side with a few milliseconds, and that spreads the vocals into stereo, which works very well to make it sound thicker, and yeah, not just in the center. So yeah, there's your effects buses. You get your channels, you link to bus 1 over here, or you can link to bus 2, which I was just talking about with the vocal going through the stereo shaper. And then yeah, that's about it. That's the bare minimum you get with Pro Tools first, which really is a lot to mix any band or any singer-songwriter stuff if you just have a guitar and vocals. But like I said, you have 16 channels which you can play around with, which is actually just enough for a mix like this, or a band like this, which has drums, 2 toms, 2 overheads, 1 bass, 2 guitars, and a few vocals, and let's say a synth. So yeah, without any further ado, I'll leave some links in the description where you can support the band, which song I mixed, and then I'm gonna play the mix for you now. Hope you have a lovely day, evening, or whatever time it is.